Hello folks, and welcome once again to the Lockdown Allotment Challenge. And in this episode we're going to look at sowing seeds in containers. So sowing seeds in trays and pots. But we're going to split it into two mini episodes. So first of all, in the first part we're going to look at the equipment and materials you need to bring together to actually sow your seeds in your trays and your pots. And in the second part we're going to look at this sowing process, so how to sow your seeds and prepare your seeds for that germination process. But first of all, I'd like to welcome you and show you my little potting shed. So please come and have a look around at the potting shed. It's quite a simple affair. It's a lean-to shed with a corrugated roof. And does everything that we need to do for our mini micro allotment. So we're chitting potatoes, I take cuttings in here, as well as sow seeds, which we're just about to do, and we've got compost, we've got everything to hand. So moving on then, what equipment do you actually need to sow your seeds? Well, first of all, a seed tray is obviously a must. A good clean seed tray is what you really want. You don't want to be transferring disease. But we're in lockdown, so you can't just pop out to the garden centre and buy yourself a seed tray. But what you can do is use a mushroom tray. So you may well have had one of these, mushrooms and bacon for breakfast, whatever. It's as good as any seed tray that you'll buy from a garden centre. You'll just need to pop some holes in the bottom and you can use that as a seed tray, and that will bring through seeds, as I've said, as well as a seed tray. The second piece of equipment is a pot. Now, if you're sowing larger seeds like the broad beans and the runner beans that we're going to be looking at in the second episode, then a pot is great because you can pop your bean in there. It'll give you a really good root system that you can transplant into your allotment plot. But again, if you've not got the pot, then something that you definitely will have is a loo roll. So a toilet roll will make an excellent pot, and you make a pot out of a toilet roll by cutting 4 slots into the bottom of the pot. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just by flipping those corners in on themselves, folks. 2, 3, 4, perhaps a little bit of sellotape, but effectively you've got a mini pot there that you can actually use and utilise for larger seeds. Totally and utterly eco-friendly as well. Moving on, a little bit more of a technical piece of equipment is the presser board. And this again is a piece of hardboard with a little piece of timber that's just screwed on top. There's nothing here, perhaps a wasted piece of timber. And we're going to show you how that works in a moment or two. And then the final piece of equipment is the sieve. This is 4 pieces of timber that was found in the garden. A piece of mesh that I've actually bought from a DIY store. Yes, we're on lockdown, so you can't get to your DIY store, but what you can get to is your wife's kitchen. And at the end of the day, if you don't tell her about it, she won't notice, but use a kitchen sieve. It does just the same job as my horticultural sieve. So there's a few bits of equipment that you can use, and there are obviously budget alternatives. Now we're going to move on to compost. So I always find compost really claggy to get out of a bag. Bags have been stacked on top of one another, they're really compacted, and you always struggle to get the compost out of the bag. So I have a really simple thing that I use and utilise to help me get compost out of the bag, and that actually is a 4-pint milk carton. I pop a hole in the top and I cut down the side, across the edge of the rim and back, and that gives me a really good scoop to scoop things out of bags. Fertiliser, compost, whatever it is. And you know, you've used the milk, you may as well use the carton. So there's a 4-pint milk carton for you to use and utilise as a compost scoop. Now the compost itself here, get it onto your table and start to work through it. Any claggy bits you really need to fetch out, because at the end of the day, folks, that's not going to be good for seeds. Remember, seeds need a really fine compost to use so that they can get their fine roots into it. Now compost can be lightened, and I tend to use vermiculite, especially for seed sowing. And vermiculite, here it is, folks. It's basically a mineral that's extracted, and it helps you to lighten your compost. It holds on to a little bit of water, but it also helps compost drain. And we just work that through, look. Lovely stuff. And as you're getting your fingers involved with your compost, remember this is giving you happy microbes in your brain. Serotonin is bursting in your brain and you're starting to become really happy. So now you've got your compost prepared, you can start to prepare your seed trays and your pots ready for sowing your seed. So first of all, we're going to look at preparing a seed tray. And if you follow these really simple instructions, you will not go far wrong when you're actually propagating seeds. So first of all, you overfill the seed tray. Always try to work cleanly as well. So overfill the seed tray. Now that is just like the cultivation video that we did, full of air. So we now need to consolidate it, and we're going to use our fingers and we push down to consolidate. Okay, we then take our presser board and we're going to use it as a striker. So middle of the seed tray, and in a zigzag pattern we work to one side, back to the middle, zigzag pattern, we work backwards, and then we're going to press down. So we don't want this like tarmac at the end of the day, but we do give it a nice press and then just clean this up, and effectively that's what you need when you're getting ready to sow seeds. And the final part of the process at this particular stage is to actually water your seed tray. So we're just going to step outside and discuss the watering can, which is another major piece of equipment in the process. So the watering can works in two ways. Effectively, the rows can be positioned upwards, so you get a really fine spray, but you can actually turn it round so you get a coarse spray. Now remember, we're sowing seeds, so we really need a very fine spray. Now the process of actually doing this is you start off the actual seed tray, then you work on, and then you come off and then stop the flow of water. If you stop the flow of water on the seed tray, you get big water droplets that act like bombs, and they will just blow your compost out of the seed tray. So here we go. We start off the compost tray. We then move on. Give it a really good soak, folks. And then we come off, and then we stop. Now essentially, you've now prepared your tray. We let that drain for about 10 minutes. And then we can move on to the process of actually sowing seeds in our containers. So that is the next mini part of this series, and that's what we're going to move on to, sowing fine seed and sowing large seed into pots. So hopefully I'll see you in a few moments time.